Imagine being a high school student, eager to learn and participate, but you've got prosthetic legs. Now picture your new PE teacher. Karen demands I play baseball, but I have prosthetic legs. Sounds absurd, right? Well, welcome to my world. Here's how it all went down. It was a sunny Monday morning, the kind that usually promises a fresh start to the week, except my week was about to take a turn for the absurd. My name's not important, but what you need to know is that I'm a high school junior, navigating the complexities of adolescence with an added twist. I have prosthetic legs. Life's thrown its curveballs, but I've learned to catch them. Or so I thought until I met Karen, the new physical education teacher. Karen had a reputation that preceded her, one of those teachers who believed in tough love, or so she claimed. But what I experienced was beyond tough. It was unreasonable. The first day she strutted into class, clipboard in hand, she announced, "This semester, we're focusing on baseball, and I expect each and every one of you to participate. No excuses." I remember exchanging looks with my classmates, a silent conversation of mixed apprehension and disbelief. How was I supposed to play baseball? Sure, I've adapted to many physical activities, but baseball was uncharted territory, especially with running bases involved. A week into practice, Karen called me out. Why are you sitting out every game, planning to fail my class?" I hesitated, then replied, "I have prosthetic legs, ma'am. I can manage some activities, but I'm not sure about baseball." Her response was a scoff. "Prosthetic legs? So what? I don't lower my standards. You'll play and you'll hit a home run, or you can say goodbye to passing this class." The challenge was ludicrous, but Karen was unyielding. The day of the so-called final test arrived, a game where my grade apparently hinged on hitting a home run. The stands were filled with classmates, whispers of disbelief and support mingling in the air. Karen pitched the ball with a smirk. "Let's see what you've got." I swung the bat with all the might my body could muster, focusing less on the impossibility of the task and more on the sheer absurdity of the situation. The bat connected with the ball, sending it flying. Not a home run, but far enough to stir a round of applause from my peers. "Run!" Karen shouted, a command laced with mockery. And run I did, or at least I tried. My prosthetic legs carried me as fast as they could, but it was a far cry from the speed of my classmates. I was tagged out before I could make it to first base. "Predictable," Karen sneered. "Looks like you're failing my class." The aftermath was a whirlwind of emotions and advocacy. My classmates rallied around me, outraged by Karen's insensitivity and blatant disregard for my limitations. The principal was involved, and meetings were held. Discussions about inclusivity, empathy, and the true meaning of education unfolded. Karen, on the other hand, remained stubbornly unapologetic, insisting she was preparing me for the real world. But what world was she preparing me for? One where insensitivity and inhuman expectations were the norms. The story doesn't end with a triumphant overturning of a grade or Karen's dismissal, though I wish I could say it did. It ends with a community provoked, repulsed by the realization that the world is still filled with Karens who view empathy and understanding as weaknesses. I learned that sometimes the most significant victories aren't about changing the minds of the stubborn, but in inspiring unity and support among those who witness injustice. Karen wanted to teach me about the real world, but instead, she taught everyone about the kind of person we should never aspire to become. And me? I continue to navigate life's curveballs, prosthetic legs, and all, knowing that for every Karen I encounter, there's a community ready to stand by my side. We're really moved by your resilience and the unity shown by your classmates. It's a stark reminder that empathy and understanding are essential in any situation, especially in education. Hats off to you for handling everything with such grace. Keep navigating those curveballs. When my husband Owen and I experienced infertility, we made the difficult decision to use a sperm donor. I kept our secret, even when it cost me my relationship with his family. But the real betrayal came when Owen failed to defend me, allowing his family to believe I was the villain. Now, I find myself estranged from my husband, branded a liar and a cheat, and fighting for my daughter's future. Here's how it all went down. My husband Owen and I have been trying for a baby for years with no luck. I would be happy to adopt, but Owen's family is against it, and has influenced my husband to also be against it. After our second year of trying, I begged my husband to go with me to get a checkup to see if either of us or both of us is infertile. He was strongly opposed to this, as all the men in his family are extremely fertile, but eventually gave in, and as it turns out, his sperm count is extremely low. He was heartbroken, as was I, and we both got therapy. After a year of no longer trying, I got pregnant, but lost the baby, and we were devastated. Owen blamed himself and proposed that we start the process of getting into a family planning center for a sperm donor, which I agreed to. He asked me that we not tell either of our families about this or our friends, and I agreed because I would never want to emasculate him. With the help of our donor, I was able to successfully become pregnant. And we had our little girl last year. She is healthy and progressing amazingly, and I thank God for her every day. I kept my promise and never told anyone. However, Owen is struggling with connecting with our little girl. Here is where the trouble begins. Last month when he went out of town with his brothers for their friend's bachelor party. While on the trip, Owen told his brothers about our infertility issues and that our baby wasn't biologically his. One of his brothers must have told his wife, who told my husband's mother. I don't know why she would tell my husband's mother except that she has never liked me. Their mother then came to our house and called me a lying woman of ill repute and tried to get my husband to leave with her. He just stood there silent. I told her that it was Owen's decision not to tell anyone, and she asked him if this was true again. He was silent, which his mother took as me being the liar. She then went to our nursery and started taking everything she'd ever given us for the baby back. I told her I didn't care about it, and I made more than enough to buy everything she gave us myself and better quality. This set her off, and she called my baby a filthy child born out of wedlock when she said that I did something I know was harsh, but I believe she deserved it. I physically pushed her out the door. I didn't hit her, but I did put my hands on her shoulders, pushing her out the door, and threw all her bad quality things out with her. After spirits had calmed down, I realized my husband had said nothing when his mother was berating me, calling me a liar, and when she called our child a filthy child born out of wedlock. So I asked him why he was silent. He said he wasn't raised to be disrespectful the way I was, and that his mother hadn't said anything that wasn't true. She was just hurtful with what she'd said, and that we should let it go and wait for his mother to forgive us. I told him that I would never let it go, that his mother and anyone who agreed with her was not welcomed in our home, and that I don't need to be forgiven when I've done nothing wrong. He then said the house was his, and as the head of the family it was his decision. I told fine, but why did he allow her to call me a liar and a woman of ill repute? Those things are not true, and our child, no child really, should be called a child born out of wedlock. He just repeated he would not argue with his mother. After that, I stopped speaking to him and started gathering up my daughter's things and purse and walked out the door with her. He tried to stop me and told me I couldn't take his daughter anywhere without him, and I lost the little bit of composure I had left. I told him she wasn't his daughter. He'd proved he didn't see her as his daughter when he'd allowed his mother to call her a filthy child born out of wedlock and told him she wasn't his. He broke down into tears and begged me to come back inside, but at the time I felt nothing. He looked pathetic to me. I've taken my baby with me and gone back home to my parents and finally told my family the truth, which feels so good. They are completely in support of my decision and are not allowing my spineless husband anywhere near us, as he still refuses to apologize to me or set the record straight with his family. However, I told the sister-in-law that I was close to the truth, and she told the rest of his family. Half of his family is understanding while the other side is on his mother's side, but they all are mad at my husband. I need time to cool down, but I know eventually my husband and I need to figure our marriage out. One thing is for certain, I will not return to his house until he apologizes to me and promises to protect me and his daughter fiercely. I want to see this in action form, starting with him telling his mother what she did was wrong and banning her from coming to see us until she asks for my forgiveness. We were also planning on having more children as he wants a big family, but that is off the table as I don't believe he is ready and we both need to get back into therapy. Apparently, after I left my husband's house, my mother-in-law, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law accused me of being unfaithful. I had already begun speaking with a lawyer after Owen refused to tell the truth to his family, but knowing he let them tell other people I was unfaithful felt like a punch in the chest. I'm now renting a nice 2-bedroom apartment. My siblings and their partners have helped me furnish it, and my top priority is ensuring my baby has everything she needs. Currently, I'm working to create a cozy nursery for her and hiring a nanny. Facing the end of my marriage is terrifying, but I'm learning to accept my new reality. When I notified Owen I was going to file for divorce, he started calling and messaging nonstop. His messages range from begging me to come home, telling me he will tell the truth and get therapy again, begging to see our baby, and then threatening to drag me home. I told him the divorce was happening whether he liked it or not, because he failed as a husband and failed even worse as a parent. He then sent photos and videos of my things in the garbage and him and my brother-in-law trashing the nursery. His exact words, "I don't need it anymore." In the most disturbing video, he threw our baby's car seat in a dumpster. I do not recognize him or his behavior anymore. He claims to miss his daughter and me, but is trying to make his behavior my fault for not doing what I'm told. This is not the man I agreed to marry. The man I married was smart, kind, gentle, thoughtful, and funny, but this unpleasantness from him was waiting for me the moment I didn't obey and take the disrespect from his family to save him from the humiliation of his infertility. Before the fallout with his mother, he was nothing like this. It's certainly not an excuse, but I believe it all centered on him feeling emasculated and humiliated by his family. I just can't believe he couldn't at least stand up to his family for me and our baby, the one he said he would die for. I am not blocking Owen as my lawyer said to email everything he says to me to him, but the constant threatening messages make me scared to leave my home. Owen knows where I work and has repeatedly told me he will drag us back if that's what it takes and that I'm making him do this. My lawyer and I are working on a restraining order, but every woman who was attacked by her ex-husband knows restraining orders don't keep you safe. However, things took a turn when my father-in-law showed up on my parents' doorstep, and it's the reason I decided to update. My father-in-law asked to speak with me. My parents told him they would call me and ask, but if I said no, then that was final and he would not be welcomed back. I only agreed to speak to my father-in-law because he told my parents he was there to apologize for his family and set the record straight. My dad called me as my father-in-law was blocked from calling me, and when I picked up, my father-in-law immediately apologized for his wife's behavior. He wanted to hear my side of the story, as he did not believe I cheated. I thanked him. I was never close to my father-in-law, but we've always been civil, and let him know of course I did not cheat. I told him of his son's infertility, and that Owen proposed we get a donor. I told him very clearly it was his son's decision, and that because my father-in-law and his family put blood as the only valid form of family, my husband made me lie so our child would be treated equally. After I finished, my father-in-law seemed stunned. He was quiet for a while, then asked if his wife and son could come over and see my daughter in person as they missed us, and were ready to be a family again, but I told him no. My father-in-law then asked if there was anything Owen could do to fix the marriage, and I again told him no. My father-in-law tried to say I was being unfair, but my dad stepped in and said my father-in-law was overstaying his welcome. Before I hung up, I told my father-in-law that his son was sending me abusive messages daily, and if he truly was sorry, then he should make his son stop. Then I hung up. My parents said my father-in-law was irritated that I did not respectfully say goodbye or give Owen a chance to save his marriage, but left with little fuss after my parents laid into him about raising his misbehaving son to threaten his wife and child. Telling his father must have worked because I haven't gotten a single message from Owen since then. I do not want anything from my soon-to-be ex-husband, not child support, not alimony, not the house, or any of his other assets. I just need him to agree to the divorce and give up his parental rights so my little girl can grow up with a family who loves her unconditionally. I have a good degree and a great job. My child and I will be fine without him. Owen's lawyer has made it clear they're going to fight us for full custody, and my soon-to-be ex-husband has significantly more money than me, but my lawyer is confident in our case and I trust them. Today my mother-in-law has been trying to contact me as she wants to be in my daughter's life and is saying she is ready to accept her as she is. As if my daughter needs to be accepted by her. If it's up to me, their whole family will never see us again. This story is an emotionally charged account of a woman bravely standing up for herself and her child in the face of betrayal and hostility. The decisions she made, while difficult, were in the best interest of her and her child's well-being. It underlines the importance of open communication, respect, and mutual support in relationships. It also serves as a reminder that family is not just about biological connections, but about love, acceptance, and respect. As a father, I never thought I'd find myself questioning my own morality over the way I disciplined my son. The sting of his harsh words towards his longtime friend still rings in my ears, and the question lingers. Was I too harsh in my punishment? I'm wrestling with the guilt and uncertainty, but to truly understand, you need to know the whole story. Here's how it all went down. I, a 36-year-old male, have a son, 15, and a daughter, 17, and they've been friends with our neighbor, who I'll call Ron, 17, since childhood. Recently, my daughter and Ron were hanging out with a friend, and they walked into our house as they left their friend's place. This is where the problem occurred. My son, who was at home with me, let out a big sigh after seeing Ron and asked why he was here. I was confused by what he meant. That's when my son complained about being tired of Ron's constant presence and made hurtful comments about his sexuality. Ron is gay. It was shocking because my son had never expressed any issues with the neighbor before and had always been close to him. Ron was visibly hurt and offered to leave, but I insisted he stay. However, he said it was okay and left anyway. My daughter and I were rightfully upset, and I admit we were yelling. I asked my son what his problem was. He yelled back saying he couldn't help not wanting to be around Ron all the time. I tried to maintain my calm, asking my son why he would say something like that to Ron. At this point, my daughter had already left and went with Ron. My son refused to answer me and just kept saying he was sorry. I told him I'm not the one he should be apologizing to. I told him I raised him better than this, and this made him cry. In the heat of the moment, I made the decision to ground my son. I took away his phone, PS5, and all his electronics, leaving him with only the TV in his room without the remote. He started crying even more and begged me not to go through with it, but I stood firm, telling him he needed to apologize to Ron the next morning. Now, I'm conflicted. My daughter supports my decision, but when I spoke to Ron, he suggested I let it go, assuring me he would be okay. I think he might be right. I tried talking to my son again, but he is outright refusing to talk to me and keeps saying, "Please leave me alone," in a quiet tone. I don't think I'm in the wrong for grounding my son, but I'm wondering if I went too far, considering it's his first time saying something like this. Am I the jerk for the way I grounded him? Hello everyone, I want to update you on the situation with my son and express my gratitude for your insights and advice. It's been a challenging time, but I'm relieved to say that my son finally opened up to me. After being grounded, my son remained reticent until a few days ago. On Wednesday, he expressed his desire to talk, which was a significant relief. He confessed that he has feelings for Ron and was hurt by Ron's rejection, who sees him more like a younger brother. This revelation was surprising as I hadn't considered that my son might be gay. He broke down, asking if I still loved him, which was heartbreaking. I assured him of my unwavering love but emphasized that his actions towards Ron were unacceptable. We had a candid discussion about love, rejection, and respect for others' feelings. After our conversation, he admitted that his harsh words were an impulsive reaction to his hurt feelings. He's not ready to face Ron yet, so I didn't insist on him apologizing directly, believing that a forced apology might lack sincerity. I encouraged him to take time to reflect and express remorse when he's ready. In a bid to be understanding, I returned his TV remote and PS5, but kept his phone as a reminder of the consequences of his actions. Ron and my daughter have been keeping their distance. I believe that Ron, demonstrating maturity and kindness, understands the situation. However, my daughter is upset with me for what she sees as leniency towards my son's homophobic behavior. I explained that we had a candid discussion, and he acknowledges his mistake, but she remains upset. As my son hasn't come out to his sister yet, I didn't feel comfortable disclosing the details of our conversation. I'm relieved that my son opened up about his feelings, but saddened by the rift with my daughter. I hope that when my son is ready to come out to his sister, she'll understand why I showed leniency in his punishment. This story is a complex web of emotions, misunderstandings, and realizations. It highlights the fine line parents need to tread when disciplining their children, especially when complicated matters such as identity and attraction are involved. It's a reminder that actions, especially those fueled by hurt and rejection, can have far-reaching consequences. I found myself in a predicament when I fell for my best friend, Dean, who was in a relationship with Helen, a woman whose circumstances I couldn't understand. I was convinced I was a better match for him, despite the harshness of my thoughts. Was I a jerk for wanting him to leave his uneducated, unemployed girlfriend for me? Here's how it all went down. The title may sound harsh, but I could not find another way to summarize it concisely. For the sake of this post, let's call him Dean and his girlfriend Helen. I'm a university student who interned at a marketing company over the past few summers. Dean was my boss, and over time, we became close friends outside of work. As our friendship deepened, I found myself falling for him due to his incredible qualities. He's hardworking, successful, funny, the whole package. In my opinion, his girlfriend Helen cannot compare. She dropped out of high school due to family issues. Her mother suffers from severe anxiety and depression, which required Helen to stay home and care for her. This situation has taken a toll on Helen's mental health, and she now sees a psychiatrist and takes medication. She's developed her own anxiety issues, which have prevented her from maintaining stable employment. Despite her struggles, she handles housework at home and tries to earn a small income through video game streaming. Dean and I have discussed Helen's situation numerous times. He insists that she's doing her best and is content with the possibility of her being a stay-at-home wife in the future. I once asked Dean why he loved Helen. He responded by listing numerous qualities, such as her kindness, intelligence, sense of humor, and her ability to see the best in people despite her personal struggles. When I confessed my feelings for Dean and expressed my wish that Helen wasn't in the picture, he firmly told me that he didn't want to be without her and asked me to respect their relationship. Despite my efforts, Dean remains committed to Helen. I don't understand why, but I suspect it's because of the thoughtful gestures she makes for him, like buying him special gifts and creating handmade cards and artwork. As for me, I'm a hardworking student, and I work as a barista to fund my education. I enjoy talking and spending time with Dean, and he means the world to me. I believe I'm a better choice for him, but he doesn't see it that way. Does anyone have advice on how I can win him over? Some people think I'm trolling. I'm not. Here are some of our direct messages. Dean asked me, "How materialistic are you?" I replied, "You're really going to support some stupid girl the rest of your life? That's really insane." Dean responded, "It's none of your business. Why'd you apologize if you're still going like this?" I insisted, "Because I don't think you realize how dumb what you're choosing for yourself is. She's not worth it. You can have someone who is your equal." Dean firmly said, "Listen, I don't have to argue with you about who I'm going to marry. You want to talk? We can talk about anything you want except my relationship. Otherwise, I won't be replying." I justified my actions by saying, "You looked out for me, so I'm just looking out for you. I'm just being a good friend." I said, "She has no job though, and I do." Dean responded, "Yeah, you're a real treat." I retorted, "At least I'm not a broke bitch." Dean shot back, "You work at a coffee shop and rent a room. That's hilarious." I defended myself. "Yeah, which is more than she does, isn't it?" Dean warned. "No, actually. Call my girlfriend bitch one more time." I replied, "I call them like I see them." I said no one else would do that. You're still talking to me. You didn't give up. Dean replied, "Just trying to look out. Doesn't seem like you have anyone else. Anyone would do the same." I admitted, "Not any guy I've met before." I confessed, "I just wish she wasn't in the picture, I guess." Dean stated, "Well, I'm lucky that she is. I don't know what I'd do without her." I argued, "You'd go on like everyone else. There are many people I thought I couldn't go on without, but here I am. You would figure it out too." Dean responded, "Well, I don't want to, so I'd appreciate you not saying things like, 'I wish she wasn't in the picture.' That's awful. If you cared at all about me, then you'd say that I'm lucky to have her and respect that. You know, we were fighting here, but we usually have a great relationship." This story presents a complex moral dilemma that underlines the importance of respecting the choices of others, especially when it comes to personal relationships. It's clear that Dean values Helen for who she is as a person, not for her socioeconomic status or level of education. The protagonist's difficulty in understanding Dean's love for Helen could indicate a lack of empathy or a limited understanding of love's many forms. It's crucial to remember that a person's worth is not defined by their job or education, but by their character, actions, and how they treat others. As a single mom, I've always shared a close bond with my child, Casey, a bond founded on honesty and mutual respect. So, when I began to suspect that Casey, who they are non-binary, might be pregnant and hadn't told me, I was at a loss. I was about to step into a whirlwind of fear, anxiety, and ultimately, acceptance. Here's how it all went down. I'm writing this anonymously due to privacy concerns for both my child and myself. As far as I know, my child Casey, non-binary they/them, doesn't use Reddit, except for watching those robot-voiced YouTube videos. Casey, if you happen to see this, I'm sorry. I love you. I just don't know who else to talk to about this. I had Casey at a very young age and have been a single mom their entire life. Although I've never revealed to them the true difficulties I faced when they were little, they're aware it was a less than ideal situation. I'm a success story, having managed to go to university and create a comfortable life for us, but I always wanted Casey to live their own life before caring for another. When they were a teenager, I emphasized the importance of safe sex, reminding them, "You have a uterus, you can get pregnant, so if you decide to do it, please be safe." Casey and I share a close relationship, and they've always confided in me about their experiences and feelings. When they began struggling with their identity, they came to me, and I was grateful they trusted me with such intimate information. I've supported them through school struggles. I know their friends. I've met their significant others. In short, there's no reason why they would hide anything from me, and I can't understand why they haven't told me. Over the past few months, I've had suspicions that Casey might be pregnant. The first sign was a severe bout of what we thought was food poisoning in September, which led to hospitalization for dehydration. I started seriously considering the possibility of pregnancy when I noticed we weren't running out of menstrual products as quickly. I assumed they were using the ones at their sixth form, given the amount of time spent there preparing for exams. The reality struck me about a week ago. Casey frequently wears oversized jumpers, but for my birthday they wore a dress, and I noticed a slight bump in their tummy. I didn't comment, not wanting to trigger any eating disorder behavior. A few days later, I saw a definite bump and the typical pregnancy line on their tummy while they were playing with the cats. If they noticed that I noticed, they haven't shown it. My heart sank, not because they're likely pregnant, but because they didn't tell me. I will support them no matter what. Even if it's too late for termination, whether they choose to keep the baby or give it up, I'll be there. I can't fathom why they wouldn't come to me. Is it possible they don't know? What if they're not pregnant and I jeopardize our relationship by asking them? I'm at a loss about what to do. All I want is for them and the potential baby to be safe, receive the right care, and know that I love them. I may have put this together on the spot, but I'm sure I saw it. A few days ago, after noticing their weight gain, they were asleep next to me on the sofa and I saw movement in their tummy, not just from breathing. I recall what it looked like. Seeing them kick when I was pregnant is a vivid memory, and they could be far enough along for the baby to be visible from the outside. However, I may have been tired, and my memory might be misleading me. Thank you for all your comments. I'm grateful for the external perspective. When I asked Casey about Reddit, they amusingly responded, "Isn't Reddit for trading stocks?" My kid certainly has a better sense of humor than I do. I approached Casey after posting, expressing my observations and asking if there was anything they hadn't told me. I assured them of my support, regardless of the situation, without mentioning pregnancy specifically to encourage them to open up. Casey broke down, and after a heartfelt cry and cuddle, They confided in me. I won't disclose the details of how they ended up pregnant for privacy reasons. They confirmed they were pregnant and quite far along, though unsure how far. My estimate was 7 months after a home fundal height test and feeling their high uterus. We measured 2931 cm. This surprised Casey, who thought they were only 5 months along. They had known for a while but tried to ignore it, thinking early miscarriage might save them from telling me. They knew they couldn't hide their bump much longer and felt scared, which made me glad I had approached them. We secured an emergency midwife appointment due to their age and lack of prenatal care, and they immediately had a scan. Hearing the heartbeat and seeing her move eased our fears. We discovered they were 30 weeks along with a healthy baby girl, a revelation that left us both in tears. Feeling guilty for not noticing my child was 7 months pregnant, I apologized for not asking sooner. Now that they're not hiding it, I wonder how I missed it. I reassure myself that Casey and the baby are both healthy and focus on preparing for the baby's arrival. I affirm that whatever they chose to do, I would support them. They decided to keep the baby, a decision I was already coming to terms with. The baby is likely to arrive just before their final exams, so I'm committed to ensuring they have every opportunity to succeed at school. They're deferring university for a year, so the situation could be worse. My baby is about to have a baby, and I'm determined to support them. It's been a surreal day. The prospect of becoming a grandmother at 35 and seeing your child suddenly very pregnant is a lot to take in. I'll update if anything significant happens, and will likely continue using this account for support. I believe we're going to be all right. This story is an emotional journey of a mother's love and support for her non-binary child. It emphasizes the importance of open communication, trust, and acceptance in a family. Despite the unexpected circumstances, the mother's unwavering support is a testament to her unconditional love. It's a reminder that no matter how challenging the situation, facing it with courage and understanding can lead to a positive outcome. I reached the brink, where love's boundaries blurred into the realm of self-preservation. Amidst a tumultuous storm of mental health battles and broken promises, I found myself fighting for a semblance of peace and autonomy. Here's how it all went down. My wife and I, who are both 31 years old, are expecting a baby. We are very excited as this will be our first child. However, I am particularly concerned about my in-laws. Despite being together with my wife for 15 years and making efforts for a decade to be liked by them, I have never managed to get along with them. The only person who has ever shown a hint of warmth towards me is my sister-in-law, but it's not like we are incredibly close. After my mother-in-law caused a major scene and stormed out of our wedding, accusing us of not involving her enough and even blaming me for my wife's speech where she felt she wasn't acknowledged enough, I decided to stop trying to win them over. This happened despite my wife assuring her that I had not contributed to writing the speech. The wedding incident made my wife see her family in a completely different light, and she told me I didn't need to subject myself to their company anymore. I want to be clear that my wife is always on my side. It's just a lot of the stuff they would do would never be in front of her. It would never really upset me because I don't like or respect them. It was more annoying. The most frustrating thing was being polite to these jerks for the sake of my wife when they were so rude to me and my family. Since the wedding, I've only really gone to their major family events, which is usually like maximum twice a year. At these events, they usually treat me with cold indifference, which is the best I can hope for, really. The real problem is with how they, mostly my wife's parents, have recently been treating her. I've always thought that her family treated her poorly. Her sister is so obviously the favorite child, and she was parentified really young when her parents divorced. She didn't really see it until recently when their treatment of her got really bad, and it's made her rethink their relationship. In the last 2 years, we have gone no contact with father-in-law because of his bigoted and political views, anti-LGBTQ+, and really right-wing politics. He somehow did mental gymnastics to not have a problem with our relationship, and we are currently in low contact with mother-in-law because of her consistent narcissism and blatant favoritism for sister-in-law. There is a laundry list of transgressions by mother-in-law, but I'm worried about word count. Happy to make an update with more background about her entitled behavior if needed. Since I've gotten pregnant, my wife has been keeping mother-in-law and sister-in-law updated over text, which they are upset about. They expressed jealousy about how my family probably got the news in person. They did because we can trust them not to be jerks and make everything about them. My wife reached out to sister-in-law to spend some time with her for birthday, and she demanded that they invite mother-in-law and expressed how she can't just cut out their parents, that they don't deserve this, and they have no idea why she has done this to them. My view is that they absolutely do know. She has told them, very nicely, much nicer than I would have been. Father-in-law just never contacted us again when she explained how his behavior was an issue and has never tried to fix their relationship. Mother-in-law immediately gets defensive anytime she tries to speak to her about her behavior. She then reverses the blame and plays the victim. She will then ignore my wife for a period of time and then pretend nothing happened. Mother-in-law has always been keen about grandchildren. Our child will be her first grandchild. I am worried she thinks she will just be able to come see us in the hospital and have unlimited access to our child. My wife and I agree this will not be the case. Her terrible behavior to my wife and me aside, she has homophobic and racist views. Again, ironic given she supposedly supports her daughter and her wife being bi, but I think she views gay women as harmless and gay men are somehow more offensive. And I don't want her influencing our child in any way with that nonsense. We both agreed she could have limited contact, supervised and planned visits. Would it be a good idea if I sent mother-in-law a message politely but firmly explaining that unless she significantly changes her behavior, she will have limited contact with her grandchild? My wife is of the opinion we should just leave it and she will figure it out eventually. I am worried that if we don't explicitly tell her early, she is going to harass us after our baby is born, like she and my in-laws did after our wedding. And I don't want that drama while we will be stressed new parents. I think this will absolutely kick the hornet's nest, but I think it's better to do it early as part of baby preparations, but it does have the potential to make things worse. You've navigated through the storm, bearing the weight of decisions that were as necessary as they were heart-wrenching. Remember, in seeking your own light, you've not only chosen survival, but also the possibility of a future filled with hope and healing. This journey, though solitary at times, marks the beginning of a path where you no longer just survive, but truly live. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk.